SukaSuka is an anime series that flew under my radar, and the only reason I became aware of this series and why I was hyped to see it was thanks to the same Chibits that told me that ReZero was going to be good are now recommending me SukaSuka. I'm pretty hyped up to see where this series goes. So, I'm going to be just point blank here. The first episode, there is a lot of setup. There is so much setup, in fact, that this series could go any direction. It could be a typical slice of life series, it could be a very cliche fantasy story, or it could be something very amazing with some extreme potential with its characters because of the setup at the beginning of the episode, and also the overall setting with our main male character being the last human being alive. So, I mean, there's a lot of potential here for a very good series or a bad series. It just depends on the direction it wants to take. But since many that recommended me ReZero are now recommending me SukaSuka, I'm going to assume that this is going to take the path of being really good. Like, it's going to be an excellent series. So I have a lot of hope that this series is going to be fantastic. So let's talk about what it's about, SukaSuka. So, obviously, from what I've already kind of briefly said, it's set in a fantasy world. It has supernatural themes and fantasy themes and all that. It has different creatures like mythological creatures and all that. And the main point of the series, from what we can see from the first episode, is that the entirety of humanity has become extinct. Like, there's none. It's not where humanity's backed up against a wall and there's only like 100 people or so left. No. There's literally no one left besides one dude, which is our main male character, and everybody else is just different species and stuff, not human at all. Like trolls, you have like beast-like people, and so there's not really, like, any humans around at all, so that changes automatically the setting of the series. But on top of that, though, we do know that the main male character, he's not the typical standard MC of a light novel. For instance, he seems like he has a lot of stuff in his past that really made him to what he is today, because he's not that type of character that wants to live a good life. Judging by his conversation he had with his friend in the middle of this episode, he thought like, it's fine if he, gets punished or he lives a shitty life like he's doing. He doesn't really care, and he also goes with the flow. He's that type of character. He's that mellowish type character. But on top of that, though, we do know that he went through a lot of shit in the past, because at one point in time, he had a family, and he lost his entire family because everyone became extinct. Now, we don't know necessarily the details behind it. We don't know exactly what happened, like the nitty-gritty details of whatever happened to, humanity, but we do know, however, that a lot of the species that did survive, they fled onto these floating islands, and they're now above the surface world, so everyone now is just on these little islands, just floating. And all of the ground is pretty much, you can't live there because of how bad it is. So apparently whatever killed off humanity, it's still down there, and if you go down there, they're gonna fuck your shit up. So that's kind of the gist of what the plot is about. So talking about the art and animation. The art and animation, it looks good. It's that typical fantasy setting animation, and a lot of the backgrounds reminded me of ReZero. I mean, there was some derps here and there with some of the faces, but overall, the art and animation looked okay. It was nothing impressive, but it was good, and honestly, it could possibly turn out to be very good depending on the future of the series when we have some really important scenes go on. Now, speaking of scenes, though, let's talk about that beginning scene, okay? The beginning of the episode starts off with what I'm assuming is a flash forward. I rewatched the episode twice, just to kind of get a good grasp of the episode, to get a good feel for it, to see how I feel about it overall in terms of all the scenes. The beginning of the episode is a flash forward. It's not a flashback or anything like that. It takes place sometime way later in the future, after what we saw later on in the episode. And I'm going to assume that whatever we saw, either it's going to happen around episode 3 or 4, because that's usually when anime starts to ramp up with some crazy shit, or that event is probably going to happen around episode 6 or the finale of the series. That's usually when stuff like that happens in anime. Now, I don't know exactly how many episodes this series is going to get, like SukaSuka. I don't know if it's going to be a 12 or 13 episode series or a 24 episode series. I personally have no idea at this time. However, though, I do have to admit that in terms of potential, there is a lot here, especially with the opening of the episode. And the opening lets us know that there's going to be a little bit more of a darkerish theme to the series, because the way it concludes the opening of the episode, the main female character, just from what my understanding is, she commits suicide. She just walks off and dies. And she says she's happy. Like, the entire speech in that scene contradicts what's going on screen, how she's very happy, but it looks like she kills herself. And I'm like, what's going on there? Like, yo, like, that's completely opposite from what is going on with that speech. So, whatever is happening there, that definitely can lead into something very good in the future, depending on where the story goes. But since so many Chibits that watch ReZero were recommending me ReZero, and before I even knew about it, I'm going to assume this is going to have some really good scenes, some high potential here throughout this entire anime series. But anyways, though, let's just say the comedy of this series, there is some comedy. There definitely is some comedy. Some of you might like it, some of you might not. It doesn't feel like the stereotypical type of comedy, like, you know, the stereotypical, like, tsundere comedy, or soon comedy, or the comedy to where it just, like, has fan service thrown in, the main male character gets slapped. There's nothing of that sort at all throughout this episode, which I am very thankful for. That makes me very happy to see a show not having to hold on to these little cliches or things you see constantly in a light novel series. I'm very happy to see that from SukaSuka. And the character-wise, besides the main male character, which is fascinating because he's the last, you know, human alive, there's this one female character, besides the blue-haired character, that is a troll, apparently. Like, she's a legit troll, but she looks kind of like a normal person, but she's a troll. And I love the dynamic between her and the main male character, and just the entire convo of what she says to him. It's just like, yo, like, it just made my mind exploded. Like, I had to go to fucking Twitter and post pictures because of how funny it is. Out of context, it sounds. Like, she's like, oh, will you let me eat you and all that? And I'm like, yo, like, are you actually saying this to this man? Like, seriously, I had to take a picture and post it on Twitter, just because if you take that out of context, it just, yeah, it goes to that 18-plus territory. But I gotta say, when it comes to that dynamic between those two characters, I had an enjoyable time watching those. That was probably one of my favorite moments of the episode, just seeing the way they were communicating with each other, and I was like, no, get away from me, I don't want to be eaten or whatever. And I'm like, yo, this is just funny as fuck if you look at it out of, you know, context. If you take it completely out of context, it's just a funny scene. And I'm like, she might be potential best girl of this season. I don't know. I mean, she might be. I mean, I like her design and all that, and the relationship she has with the main male character. I'm like, she's potential best girl. We'll see where that goes. So, besides that, let's talk about the music, okay? So, the music of the series. Music, I like it, but there is one song that stuck out to me, and it was the beginning of the episode. Now, I've heard this song before. I'm going to be straight up. I've heard this song before, but I don't know if I have. Like, let me kind of explain myself. A lot of anime, you know, there's opening songs or singers that do, you know, different opening songs to different anime. And sometimes if you hear a song, it might be from the same singer from a previous anime you watch. And they might sound similar because it's from the same, you know, person that sung the previous song. But the song in question, what we heard in this episode at the beginning, I feel like I've heard that from somewhere. I feel like I have watched a series or clip or something, I don't know, that had that exact same song. Now, I could be wrong here. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, because there's a lot of songs out there that can sound very similar, but that song reminded me of something, and I cannot remember what it is. And so if anyone knows, if I am right, please let me know in the comments below, because that song reminded me of something. It was so beautiful. Like, I'm like, oh my god, like, this is such a beautiful song. Like, I heard it from somewhere, but it's so beautiful, the way it went through the entire scene with this, like, montage with the two characters just trying to travel, read the map, and go to the middle of town and all that to see the entire floating island. It was a very beautiful opening to the episode, and it really captured that setting of the series, the fantasy setting, and I'm like, this is a great way just to start an episode series. It just got me really into it. I was really mesmerized by the entire opening of the series because of the way that song was just put in there. So, that song, very beautiful. I would like to hear that more, but I don't know where that's from. I really don't. So, if anyone knows, please let me know. Anyways, I guess overall, SukaSuka, it's a series right now that has a good setup. It has a lot of setup with the first episode and potential to turn out to be a very good series. But at the same time, on the other side, it does have potential to turn into complete shit. I'm not even going to deny that. It does. It has that potential to turn into trash. However, I have my hopes. I got high hopes right now because the same people that, as I've already said, recommended me ReZero before I even knew about ReZero are recommending me this series. So, because of that, I'm expecting this series to go down a path that I truly enjoy, but it could still turn out to be shit, so we just need to see. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about SukaSuka? Did it, meet your expectations? Was it, a good anime adaptation? That's actually what I should ask now, since I haven't asked that yet. I know this is based off of a light novel. How is the anime adaptation? Is it a good adaptation, like the first episode? You light novel readers out there, the original source readers, how is the adaptation so far? Did it adapt it properly, or was it bad? I want to hear now, because that's actually something I want to hear. I want to hear the light novel readers and their thoughts on the first episode of the series. Was it good? Did it meet your expectations? Or did it fail miserably? Just please be honest in the comments below. And Anime Onlys, also tell me your thoughts on this first episode as well. So please be safe. Chibi out.